And welcome to another edition of Oxford News This Week. On this edition, community leaders gather to explain the healthcare need for Oxford, the little train that can, Oxford basketball and sports on this edition of Oxford News This Week. And welcome back to another edition of Oxford News This Week. It was last Wednesday, a press conference was held in the Oxford area regarding the gun legislation ending gun violence in Michigan. Members of the nonprofit groups End Michigan Gun Violence and No Future Without Today met with the public not only to address the epidemic of gun violence, but on how it continues to affect so many in Oxford. Lauren Jasinski of the End Michigan Gun Violence and former Oxford Middle School and High School teacher commented on the three main legislative priorities that groups are now focusing on.
So our three main legislative priorities of End Gun Violence Michigan and then also No Future Without Today are truly universal background checks, safe storage laws, and what we call extreme risk protection orders. Sometimes they're called red flag laws. These are the types of laws that would prevent people who may be a harm to themselves or to others from having a firearm, or getting those temporarily taken from them by a physician, a law enforcement officer, a concerned family member. Things like that. We want to pass common sense laws that are not going to violate anybody's rights, but are going to make our community safer.
Other speakers at the End Michigan Gun Violence Vigil included former Oxford student Dylan Morris. Mr. Morris is one of the founders of the No Future Without Today, a student-led initiative organized by survivors of the Oxford shooting. He addressed the foundations for preventing gun violence in Michigan.
School shootings are not normal. However, students, educators, and parents have lived with their reality for the past 24 years. I've been questioning why Michigan didn't already have life-saving measures in place and how it's been 14 months since our tragedy and not a single thing has been done. According to the Gun Violence Archive, 30 mass shootings have happened this year as of the beginning of this week. Safe storage laws, universal background checks, and extreme risk protection orders are a foundation of building a state free of gun violence. A majority of Michiganders and Americans as a whole support them, and they will save many lives.
Another organizer of the Oxford-based No Future Without Today, Madeline Johnson, emphasized that while prayers are needed, it is also important to take swift action to prevent future tragedy.
I'm here today because I'm tired of people telling me how bad they feel or how sorry they are. I'm tired of thoughts and prayers that are not backed by action. Many people agree that mass shootings are horrifying and devastating, but very few of those many are willing to do what it takes to prevent future tragedies. I'm here to express the importance of legislation that can save many lives because the youth of America were never meant to attend so many funerals.
Delilah Sharp, representing the Pontiac-based Identify Your Dream, reiterated that the school shootings are completely preventable, utilizing common sense gun laws.
This is completely preventable. The governor campaigned on issues of stopping gun violence. The new leaders of the legislature also campaigned on gun violence, and the voters gave them a mandate. The people have spoken. They have spoken for common sense gun violence laws. We can work in bipartisan ways, but we cannot get bogged down.
The statewide vigil, also held in various locations throughout Michigan that day, included Detroit, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Lansing, Saginaw, and Marquette. The popular Lake Orion restaurant, G's Pizzeria, will now take over the space at 925 Bar and Kitchen in the Legacy Center. The transfer was approved unanimously in January at the meeting of the Oxford Township Board of Trustees. Chris and Jason Alia of the G's Pizza, who are in receivership of the transfer, are happy to add Oxford to the list of 8 pizzerias that they already own in Michigan.
And we are just so excited to be coming into Oxford. And as we continue to embed ourselves in this community further and further in kind of the work that we're doing with Legacy 925 right now, meeting new families, employing new employees, it's daunting and it's absolutely incredible just to see how rich community and family is in Oxford. I've known about it. I live in the Goodrich area, just very close. I have a lot of friends that are in this area. Chris lives
I
right
live in
here
Oxford.
in Oxford. And just to actually finally meet families, finally shake hands and start to introduce ourselves around town has just been an incredible experience.
Also at the Oxford Township Board of Trustees meeting, U.S. Representative Alyssa Slotkin was awarded tribute resolution for her service to the Oxford Township Communications and Grants Manager, C.J. Carnacchio, made the special presentation to Mrs. Slotkin's congressional staffer, Alexis Denard, who accepted the award on her behalf.
Whereas U.S. Representative Alyssa Slotkin served Michigan's 8th Congressional District, which includes Oxford Township and Village, with honor, integrity, and dedication from January 3rd, 2019 to January 2nd, 2023. And whereas Congresswoman Slotkin and her staff provided numerous resources, valuable guidance, immeasurable help, and unwavering moral support to local officials and the community following the November 30th, 2021 tragedy at Oxford High School. And whereas Congresswoman Slotkin has been a great asset and a true friend to the people of Oxford, now therefore be it resolved that the Charter Township of Oxford Board of Trustees wishes to express its sincere gratitude to Congresswoman Slotkin for everything she has done for our community and the 8th Congressional District as a whole. Congresswoman Slotkin has always been there for us. We greatly appreciate her sincere desire to work for the betterment of all, and we thank her for her exemplary service. She was always welcome in Oxford Township.
Ms. Denard pointed out that even though the Representative Slotkin can no longer serve in the 8th Congressional District, she and her staff will always be available to the residents of Oxford.
You know, it has been a pretty incredible honor for us and for the Congresswoman to be able to serve and help the people of this community and to get to know the people of this community. And obviously we were here you know, in around Oxford prior to everything that happened last fall, but have been here a lot more since then. And I will say that though the district lines changed in the last election, and that we are not officially your congressperson anymore, we are here for you into perpetuity, and hope that you will always feel like you can reach out to us.
Stayed in the midst of forming a new committee to see the recommendations regarding the hospital bed need here in Oxford Township. A combination of leadership went to the Capitol. Supervisor Jack Curtis, Oxford Fire Chief Matthew Majestic, and Oxford Village Manager Joseph Medor traveled to Lansing. They addressed the Certificate of Need Commission, CON for short, about hospital bed standards. Following their comments, CON Commission voted to form a standard advisory committee, SAC, to review the methodology used to determine hospital bed need and on a limited access. Supervisor Curtis pointed out that in 2018, the state had determined that there would be a need of 117 acute care hospital beds in the Oxford area by the year of 2021. At that point, Oxford was considered part of an underserved area, including 3 other zip codes. 2 years later, the state updated its assessment policy and determined Oxford also would need now 121 hospital beds by 2023. Then the state again changed their methodology. As a result, the need for hospital beds again for Oxford has now been reduced to 0. No longer it's considered part of an underserved area. This makes, again, no sense to the administration, including Curtis, about the communities around the area that are continuing to grow. So does the need for hospitals in the area. Chief Majestic told commissioners that whenever his paramedics or EMTs have to transport patients to a local hospital, they are 16 to 22 miles away, and it rounds out to about 2 to 2.5 hours on a single call from the time the call is received to the time that they're back in the community to help for service. Again, a long time away from the office. The deadline to fill out your survey for the Oxford Library is fastly approaching. That'll be up until Tuesday the 31st. You can participate in the online survey that will actually help the Oxford Public Library evaluate its current offerings, programs, and services, and gain a better understanding of what the public needs or wants. The survey takes around 9 minutes to complete. All the responses are anonymous. Survey questions can be found again on the website below my name. On the safer side, a North Oakland Community Coalition teamed up with the Oxford Fire Department to hand out free marijuana prescription drug lock boxes. The community in drive-through fashion with the event that took place last week will be was from 10 to noon at station number 1 on 96 North Washington. The lock boxes come with a lock, instructions on how to change the lock combination. According to the NOCC communications coordinator, this is the first time the group has had such an event in Oxford, but they have done it twice before in Lake Orion. The group handed out 120 lock boxes in prior events, adding that these boxes have 200 lock boxes. The Oxford event, the box usually runs about $30. Last October, the NOCC received a grant from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration to purchase lock boxes. SAMHSA is a branch of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Take Back Day, the National Take Back Day Drug Enforcement Agency, is also encouraging Americans to safely, properly dispose of all unused expired medication. The group posts their events on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Inside this week, the Oxford Leader is very proud, and again, they being a special edition, you might want to pick up the section celebrating the area history and particularly the Oxford Leader contribution. This past December, the Oxford Leader turned 125 years old. And I've been thinking about prepping of the section for the last few months. Again, it's going to be a neat addition to pick up. Oxford Leader began its writings December 9th, 1898. Also, did you know the edition of the paper, which was originally called the Oxford Intruder? And it's true, the Intruder's first edition was on April 15th, 1898. You can read all about that inside that edition. There are other stories about businesses, schools, churches, law enforcement, Oxford newspapering in general. Did you also know that the first paper was owned and operated by a woman? And it's true that, again, there's a lot of older pictures, some which were published by the Leader pages over the years. Some of the pictures that were actually found in areas of the Leader's office, nooks and crannies, again, they published those as well. One of the coolest pictures is the Oxford High School graduating class of 1894. All 3 young women, all 3 young men. While their styles and writing layout and format and ownership in the Leader has changed over the years, the Leader is still also locally owned newspaper, and the mission of informing, educating, entertaining the community. Again, they thank all the businesses and groups who've helped bring the section to the community. Thank you to the support. Thank you for the sales team who also sold advertisements. Thank you also for the design team for putting up together such a nice looking section. Thank you to staff writers Megan Kelly, Shelby Stewart Solden, and Wendy Reardon Price for the work. They also want to thank local residents and members of the North Oakland Historical Society. Drew Holt, on occasion Holt writes and posts online articles. Again, he is allowed to use some of his articles in the section. And finally, the readers, this Oxford is long and still growing, and they didn't have enough room to write the entire history of the community, but they, again, tried their very best. Again, the Oxford Leader turning 125 and tried to celebrate it through their writings. Starting the first weekend of February, Stronger Together Ice Fest will return to the downtown of Oxford and Lake Orion. Just like last year, the ice sculptures, business specials, and downtown trolley will be connecting both communities. According to the Oxford Downtown Development Authority Project and Media Coordinator Kimberly Smith, the Ice Fest will last a month. All different themes will be picked each week. The ice sculptor Clinton Rich of Clear Cut Ice Sculptures in Commerce Township will carve out new sculptures matching the themes of every weekend. Stronger Together, sports, business logos, and retro movies. Thursday nights in Lake Orion will also do ice carvings. The ice sculptures will be placed in front of the local businesses. They will be there until they melt. On February 9th, from 5 to 8, the Oxford DDA is also bringing back Galentine Day, a night out for women to celebrate their friendships with other women. Generally speaking, Smith said, there will be food, tasting, sales, happy hour specials, a good time had by all. During the month of February, the Downtown Trolley Express will transport people between Oxford and Lake Orion on Thursday nights 5 to 9, Saturdays 3 to 9. The trolley runs continually in a loop. In Oxford, the pickup location is at Magic Brownie Box, 40 North Washington. Drop-off point is the Funky Monkey Toy Store at 5 North Washington. In Lake Orion, the pickup location, Fork and Pint at 51 North Broadway, and the drop-off Nuts About Chocolate at 59 South Broadway. One good thing and different thing this year is the ownership of the trolley. Last year, the trolley was owned by Smart. This week, Oxford DDA purchased the trolley for $6,100. The trolley will be stored at the North Oakland Transportation Authority on Glaspie Street. According to the Oxford DDA Executive Director Kelly Westbrook, the Lake Orion DDA has agreed to fund $5,000 for repairs of the trolley. She said when the trolley ran last year, local business saw a 15% increase on the March on Trolley, and it will run through Fridays and Saturdays. Also March, both Westbrook and Lake Orion DDA Director Molly Lalone will do a 45-minute presentation up in Boston, Massachusetts at the Main Street DDA Festival, I should say DDA Convention. With that, Dave Kenny, I know we'll have a few more segments, and I know I'll be back with sports, but we're going to leave you with some pictures out here at the Seymour Lake Park. The flakes are flying in Oxford, and the winter fun has begun at Seymour Lake Township Park. And again, kids and adults having a blast racing down the hill with their sleds. We leave you with that. We'll be back shortly to pick it up with more of Oxford News This Week. Don't go away.
You budget. You pay bills.
Yet somehow, women like you, like me,
Are 80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
So here's what we're going to do now. We're going to save ourselves by setting a goal to save 2% more of our income for our retirement.
Why two?
1% honors you.
And 1% honors all womankind.
So come on. Learn more about the 2% challenge at WeSaySaveIt.org.
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and this story is taken from Automotive News. After cutting the price of its popular Model Y crossover by $13,000 this month, Tesla Incorporated has now raised the starting sticker by $500 without explanation. The most inexpensive version of the EV, the Model Y Long Range, now starts at $53,490 before adding the $1,390 shipping fee and $250 order fee. That means it still qualifies for the new $7,500 tax incentive that's part of the Inflation Reduction Act signed into law last year. The $500 price change appears on Tesla's U.S. shopping site January 24th. Since the standard two-row Model Y is classified as a car by the IRS, it faces a price cap of $55,000 for the tax incentive. Shipping and other fees are excluded from the price limit. The less popular version of the crossover, the three-row Model Y, for an extra $4,000, is classified as an SUV and has a price cap of $80,000 under the preliminary IRS guidance. The Treasury Department is still developing regulations around the EV credit with a March deadline for final guidelines. Tesla CEO Elon Musk has complained on Twitter about the classification of the two-row Model Y as a car and urged Tesla fans to complain directly to the IRS. Industry analysts saw this month's $13,000 price drop as Tesla's response to softening demand due to a slowing economy and relatively high prices since the automaker sharply raised stickers over the last 2 years. Tesla's 3 other models also received price cuts earlier this month. But the $500 about face on just the Model Y and not the other models sparked speculation by the brand's fans on social media. And Tesla no longer has a press office and didn't respond to an email requesting comment on the price increase. One theory is that 2 popular options, larger induction wheels and red paint at $2,000 each, could create supply chain or production issues on soaring demand for the price-reduced Model Y. Before the price cut and EV incentive took effect, the most inexpensive Model Y started at $65,990 before fees. The effective price is now $45,490 for customers eligible for the tax break, giving buyers more financial leeway to add options. Tesla may have a limited supply of premium wheels and proprietary red paint in short term, according to the theory. Other optional paint colors can still be added while staying within the $55,000 limit. The black paint option is $1,500, blue is $1,000, and silver is $1,000, and white has no cost. On the interior, white seating is $1,000, while black has no cost. Henry Ford would be proud. Well, that's it for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television.
And welcome back to Oxford News This Week. Time for a brief look at our sportscast. Scarlett Nahas, 11, in 6th grade at the Oxford Middle School, is raising eyebrows with her skills on the uneven bars. 2 weekends ago, for the 14th and 15th, she had gymnastics meet in Toledo, received a 9.95 out of 10. Level 7 uneven bar routine. Scarlett holds multiple all-around titles, multiple all-around state titles for Michigan, as well as regional titles for Region 5 in the United States Association of Gymnastics. She has been involved in gymnastics for 5 years, attends the GTC gym in Rochester. She competes in all 4 women's events: balance beam, uneven bars, vault, and floor. We might see her at the Olympics someday, would you think? She lives at home with her mother, her stepfather, Ron Jahalis, sister Sky Nahas, who also attends Oxford High School, her King German Shepherd, and German Shepherd named Guinness. Once again, congratulating her on her gymnastic events. Boys swim dive improved to a 4-1 at 107-79 victory over West Bloomfield. Again, the magic in the pool. Olin Charnstrom continues the season-long tear where he broke another pool record with a 100 backstroke. His time there, 51.99. Congratulations to Olin. Oxford basketball seeing a tremendous success as it sits in the second in that ever so popular Oakland Blue division. Berkeley on top right now with their 4-10 record. Oxford has a 2-10. They follow close second. Seaholm at 2-2. We also have Swartz Creek at 2-3. Rochester at 1-2. Oxford Royal Oak 1-2. Oxford just taken down Imlay City the other night with a score of 47-41. In girls basketball, the ladies sit on top of that tough Oakland Blue against their rivalry Berkeley. Again, Oxford's 4-0. Berkeley has a 3-2. Royal Oak at 3-3. Oak Park at 2-2. Ferndale 2-3. Seaholm at 1-3. Oxford's varsity basketball team won Thursday away. They took on Seaholm in Birmingham. The score there, Oxford 56, Seaholm 34. That's going to wrap it in sports. You can catch a lot of these sports contests right here on OCTV. We'll be back in just a moment on Oxford News This Week.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and this story is taken from New Scientist. The massive eruption of the Tongan volcano in January of 2022 has made it more likely that we will exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming within the next 5 years, but the effect will disappear by 2035. The chances of temporarily exceeding 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming within the next 5 years have increased markedly due to the spectacular eruption of an underwater volcano in Tonga in January of 2022. The explosive Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai event was the most powerful of the 21st century so far. Large eruptions are usually dominated by sulfur dioxide emissions, which cause climate cooling, but the Tonga one was very unusual because it released a lot of water vapor, a powerful greenhouse gas. Satellite measurements indicate that it increased the water vapor content of the stratosphere by 10 to 15%. This is expected to cause temporary global warming. Stuart Jenkins at the University of Oxford and his colleagues estimated how this extra water vapor would change the balance of incoming and outgoing energy in the atmosphere. They then simulated the resulting temperature anomaly until 2035 under 2 scenarios. One in which carbon emissions continue on their current trajectory and one with ambitious climate mitigation policies. They found that on the current emissions trajectory, the Tonga eruption will produce a small and short-lived warming effect, increasing the chance from 50 to 57% of at least one of the next 5 years reaching 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels for the first time. In the ambitious climate mitigation scenario, the chances of one of the next 5 years exceeding 1.5 degrees Celsius rises from 60 to 67%. That's because aerosol particles from human air pollution reflect radiation and currently help to slow the pace of warming. But ambitious mitigation policies cut emissions of all pollutants quickly, resulting in faster rates of warming in the short term. The 2015 Paris Agreement set a goal of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Exceeding this in a coming year wouldn't mean we have failed to meet this objective, Jenkins points out. Whilst Tonga may increase our chances of seeing a 1.5 degrees Celsius year in the near term, it is a natural influence on the climate system and doesn't contribute to our measures of success or failure in the Paris Agreement, he says. The research also shows that the Tonga effect will have disappeared by 2035. This is a timely study and demonstrates that we can relatively quickly estimate the impact that a volcanic eruption will have on its surface temperature, says Anja Schmidt at the Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich, Germany. Even though most volcanic eruptions cool the Earth's surface, this study demonstrates that only rapid and rigorous reductions in anthropogenic emissions will substantially decrease the risk of exceeding very dangerous levels of warming. We can't rely on short-term cooling effect of most volcanoes to save us from the impact of global warming will have, as she says. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny.
The day that JD was injured, I had woke up to an odd phone call. It was the military calling to tell me that he had stepped on an IED.
My role in the Army was I was an infantry scout. I was a squad leader for a recon element.
The Army doesn't really prepare you for injuries. They either prepare you for the soldier to come home or not to come home at all. They don't prepare you for the in-between. There's things that I do for him that is considered caregiving that to me is considered just loving him.
The day I got injured, she got wounded as well. And the veterans wouldn't be the men that we are and the women that we are today if it wasn't for our better half helping us every direction we go.
The Coalition to Salute America's Heroes helps severely wounded or disabled veterans just with basic needs such as emergency financial aid. For our family specifically, they tremendously helped us out with employment through their Heroes Thinking Heroes program.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
Back with you on Oxford News this week, and again, we thank the news gathering source of that 125-year-old Oxford Leader, Oxford Township Facebook. We photo credits go out to CJ Carnacchio and the Oxford Leader. OCTV also can be viewed on Spectrum Charter Channel 191, Channel 99 on the AT&T U-verse system, YouTube, Rumble, or even Facebook. You can even download the Roku app and watch OCTV programming. At OCTV is also available to local groups for producing public service announcements. If you have a show idea, contact our office at 628-9658. That's 248-628-9658. Thanks to our producer-director here on set, Kyle Snage, videographer Al Campbell, our editor Marissa. Also, we thank program coordinator Dan Weiss, program director Connie Miller, station manager Terry Stiles, and Dave Kenny with all his efforts. For everyone here at OCTV, I'm Jim Hughes, hoping you have a safe week, and I invite you back next time. And again, we will take a look at Oxford News this week.